Do you want to win an Xbox One? Enter our 100,000 subscriber giveaway. All you have to do is like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. MMA is naturally built on the allure of controversial and shocking moments. Whether it's the action inside the cage or the volatile personalities of the stars outside of it, there's never any shortage of attention-grabbing moments to keep you ticking over until the night of fights. And while the UFC and each of the other major fight organizations are no stranger to using the most controversial moments in their promotional material, there are without question some incidents that they would rather never see the light of day again. Whether it's shocking moments in the fights themselves or less than desirable comments and controversies that occur outside the fight night, we have no doubt that the heads of all the major promotions would prefer if these 10 memorable moments were stricken from the history books. Number 10, Pat Curran KOs Joe Warren. First up, we jump over to Bellator, where the featherweight title was up for grabs between Pat Curran and Joe Warren. The fight itself was competitive up until the beginning of the finishing sequence in the third round. Curran managed to connect cleanly with the first of an eventual barrage of strikes, but in a shocking turn of events, the referee did not deem Warren to be out of the fight until he had absorbed a huge amount of unnecessary damage. Taking shot after shot with little to no offense thrown back in return, after over 20 unanswered punches and knees, finally, the bout was called with Curran declared the victory. An incredibly bad stoppage that Scott Coker and company likely wish never happened.
They need to stop this. He's done. Jump knee, right hand, uppercut. That is it.
Number 9, Derek Lewis. There was quite a bit of animosity shared between the veteran heavyweights Derek Lewis and Travis Brown as they geared up for a 3-round clash back in 2017. The pair traded barbs that ranged from the usual trash talking to some comments made by Lewis in relation to Brown's past accusations of domestic violence.
He called himself a man, but he put his hands on women. So forget that guy, got much more heart than he has.
As you would expect, the mood was quite tense as these two gargantuan mixed martial artists were set to face off. However, once the fight's momentum began to swing in the Black Beast's favor, he set into motion the bout's final surge, hammering Brown with a number of unanswered shots. The referee, despite Brown being clearly beaten, did not step in quickly enough, leaving Hapa on the receiving end of some hugely unnecessary shots.
Back to that body now. Oh, the right hand sends Brown down again and possibly out.
Number 8, Michael Bisping's lucky break. One of the most controversial scorecard decisions in MMA history came during a hometown show for the future middleweight champion Michael Bisping. Facing his fellow Ultimate Fighter contestant Matt Hamill, the general consensus was that Bisping did not nearly do enough over the 3 rounds to win the fight on the cards. Hamill, who was fighting in enemy territory, seemed to comfortably outclass the count on his way to what should have been a clear unanimous decision victory. However, when the time came for the judges to submit their decisions, they shockingly favored the home fighter, leading to an outraged reaction from the crowd. Bisping was quick to brush off the controversy during his post-fight interview, but all in all, this remains one of the most divisive decisions the sport has ever known.
I always thought that my win counted. This counts even more. He's been calling me out. Who's the real winner of the Ultimate Fighter? The same one it always has been.
Number 7, Seth Petrozelli's upset for the ages. For those who have followed MMA for quite some time now, will remember the unescapable hype that surrounded Kimbo Slice during his initial rise through the sport. As the poster boy for the promotion Elite XC, Kimbo was originally scheduled to take on Kem Shamrock before the former UFC champion was forced out of the contest. Needing a replacement, the promotion called on an undercard fighter, Seth. Though not confirmed, Seth claimed that he was offered money by the promoters to stand and bang with Slice, foregoing the wrestling route, which would have been seen as an Achilles heel for Kimbo. In the end, he went there and knocked out the rising star in 14 seconds, celebrating before quickly realizing he had messed with the promotion's plans, leading to him deciding to get out of the arena as quick as possible. An odd moment indeed.
Slice goes down. Slice in trouble. Oh my goodness. Slice gets pounded.
Number 6, Kyrie Young. Knocking someone unconscious during a bout's initial glove touch is just bad form. There's no way around it. Kyrie Young produced one of the ugliest incidents of poor sportsmanship we've seen in quite some time when he decided to beat his opponent Daniel Quimby to the punch in every sense of the word, opening their contest with a hard shot that flattened his opponent. Virtually everyone in attendance was shocked and appalled, but Young surprisingly doubled down on his decision, citing bad blood between the two as the main reason for his bending of the rules. Not an illegal blow by any means, but certainly a bad look for the sport as a whole. Number 5. Chris Weidman versus Luke Rockhold. Bad stoppages aren't as unavoidable as people might think. Sure, hindsight is 20/20, and sometimes anything from the ref's viewing angle is simple misinterpretation of a finishing sequence that can result in a stoppage we would quickly deem to be too late. However, during the UFC 194 co-main event clash between Luke Rockhold and the middleweight champion Chris Weidman, we can point out at least 5 different moments that the fight should have been called. Initially competitive, the bout took a major turn once Weidman inadvisably threw a spinning back kick. Rockhold immediately pounced after the botched technique, beating down Weidman for several minutes without any response before the fight was mercifully stopped by the referee. In reality, it could have been stopped a good bit beforehand, as well as in between rounds, as the clearly beaten Weidman walked out to a 4th and final round.
Another one.
Luke was leaning on that one too. He's got to be careful.
Again, he goes up high now. And Rockhold shakes his head. Oh, look at that. Went for a wheel kick.
Number 4. Anderson Silva's USADA issues. Anderson Silva's legacy has indeed taken something of a hit in recent times. 2 high-profile instances of him failing USADA-ran doping tests have called his overall run of dominance into question. The first, which came after his middleweight clash with Nick Diaz, saw him receive a ban from the sport, and a second, which happened in 2017 ahead of his scheduled showdown with Kevin Gastelum in China, once again saw him handed a suspension. Both times, Anderson has brought a defense of the table that got claimed as ignorance based on him having to take in a contaminated supplement, but all in all, it's hard to look past these 2 blemishes on the outstanding career of the longtime 185-pound king.
You're sticking to your word that you're clean, you never use performance-enhancing drugs?
No, nothing. Never in my life.
Anderson Silva fails out of UFC Shanghai main event. Makes sense, he's 40. What did he fail for, did it say?
Number 3. Rampage being Rampage. Quinton Jackson, in his prime, was one of the most fearsome fighters we've ever had the pleasure of watching compete. However, outside of the cage, it was his playful and unpredictable personality that truly made him a mainstream success. That being said, there were a few memorable instances of Rampage getting a little too up close and personal with female reporters, incidents that were in many ways brushed under the rug at the time. One particular case involving the veteran journalist Karen Bryant saw the former UFC champion attempt to motorboat the reporter without warning. We're sure neither Quinton or his employers at the UFC would like to see those incidents highlighted anytime soon, that's for sure.
She's hot, ain't she? That's why I gave her the interview. She's hot.
Thank you, Rampage.
I want a motorboat right now. All on camera, like all on the camera. You know I be hunting.
Number 2. Making an example out of Nick Diaz. Few fighters match the Diaz brothers in terms of standing as a true anti-authority figure within mixed martial arts. The older of the two, Nick, was originally the most well-known brother, fighting in several high-profile showdowns before dipping into a state of semi-retirement at the height of his powers. One contributing factor in that move was a shocking 5-year suspension for testing positive for marijuana in the wake of his final outing against Anderson Silva. Believing that he was unjustly being made an example of, Nick, along with the vast majority of the MMA community, took a stand against the USADA. Eventually, the ban and gargantuan fine that came with it was lowered. However, Nick never did truly forgive the sport, as he found himself increasingly disillusioned with the fight game ever since.
So I've already beat guys who are on the top right now. This is the type of sort of reason why that people don't understand that I'm the best fighter in the world. They don't understand that.
Number 1, the GSP Hendricks decision. And finally, we get one of the most divisive moments the sport has ever known. The dominant champion George St. Pierre had seemingly been beaten for the first time in years. The powerful wrestler Johnny Hendrick beat the champion down over 5 rounds, leaving GSP's face in a crimson mask. Indeed, there were competitive rounds, but all in all, you'd be hard-pressed to find an expert who didn't score the fight against the Canadian when all was said and done. Shockingly, the judges decided that St. Pierre had enough to warrant him the victory. Needless to say, the reaction was huge. Many believe this to be a clear case of fight fixing to keep the marketable superstar GSP in his position of the belt. In the end, it mattered for little, as George retired on the spot there and then. Hendricks would of course go on to win the UFC welterweight title regardless, but there was no getting around how crazy and baffling a decision this really actually was.
Yeah, I'm blown away that George St. Pierre won that fight. And listen, I'm a promoter. He's the biggest pay-per-view star on the planet for me. And I still don't think he won that fight.
And that'll just about do it for today's list. Controversial moments like these are part and parcel of the sport of mixed martial arts. Chances are we will never fully rid of a reason to get up in arms when it comes to dealing with the ins and outs of the fight fame. However, there is a line between good publicity and bad publicity for MMA powers that be, and over the course of these 10 installments, hopefully we have done a good job at highlighting some of the sport's less than desirable moments. If you enjoyed today's content, be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to ensure you stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. And as always, thanks for watching.